In just over 3 months' time, my life is going to look incredibly different. So as we've been approaching next year where I'm going to be selling my property and being able to access my personal pension, I've realised I need to start imagining what life is actually going to be like living on the boat full time. You know, and I mean visualising exactly where everything is on the boat, where the different rooms are, where all the different lounging areas are, where the bedrooms are, and getting a feel of what it feels like to, or at least envisage, waking up in the morning and my normal routine, my daily routine, because without that, if I don't do that, it's going to come as a shock, and I don't want that. So also lately we've been working out, and refining down exactly what kind of boat we want. Now we were looking at a boat called the Seamaster 30. Now if you do a search for the Seamaster 30, you'll come up with a load of watches by Amiga, I think. Obviously we're not going to live on that. So the Seamaster 30 is a 30-foot vessel. It's like a river cruiser, coastal cruiser. It's a GRP, which is fiberglass, and it has an internal diesel engine. Some of them have 2 diesel engines, and it has an aft berth, and it also has a V berth at the front. Most of the boats that we're looking at, because they're going to be GRP as opposed to narrow boats. A few people have possibly been confused because I haven't spelled it out properly, but on the comments, saying things like it's going to cost me extra to do all the blackening of the hull. We're not going to have a narrow boat or a steel cruiser. We're looking at fiberglass, so they just have anti-foul every year or every couple of years. In fact, where we are, I got away without anti-foul on my boat for about 7 years, so and it was absolutely fine. So it's a fiberglass hull that we'll be looking at. Now the boats that we'll be looking at, we want, the reason we need a fiberglass boat rather than a narrow boat is because the narrow boats are like 60 feet in length or so. They're double what our club will allow us to stay at, so we are limited to 10 meters long. Now there's quite a wide range of boats in that kind of with that kind of length, varying in different prices, obviously depending on how old you go. Now we're probably going to go for quite old because we like the layout. The layouts in the 1970s and very, very early 80s models seem to be a much more economical and much more efficient layout. It skews all this noise. It's the bin collection outside. That's another thing we've got to think about is waste collection where we are and everything else. Not that we generate a lot of waste. Recycling, we're very big on recycling. So anyway, I digress. So what we're looking at is the Seamaster was nice for us because it has where the helm is in the cockpit, it's kind of enclosed over with either a canopy or fully enclosed fiberglass, and then you've got an aft cabin that goes behind you with either a double and a single or 2 singles, and there's usually a sink in there and a couple of wardrobes and stuff, bit of storage space. And then right at the other end you've got, as you walk through, the galley with a bit of a dining area, and then you have the V berth at the front. I'm not sure, I need to test out these V berths, so we're going to start looking at boats soon. I know we can't afford to buy them, but we're just going to have to do that. And I wouldn't be happy if I was selling a boat and I knew somebody wasn't in a position to actually purchase it. But it's tough. I really need to kind of refine down. I don't want any surprises next year. I don't want to suddenly be looking at all these boats and then think, oh my god, I can't actually fit on the V berth. So the other boats we've been looking at is, we've been thinking, well, actually, why do we need 4 or 5 berths? There's only 2 of us. The central seating area can be converted on most of these boats to another berth if need be. So I could lounge around, I could stay overnight in the middle of the cabin, in the middle of the boat, rather than the V berth if I wanted to, one night or a few nights. It's no big deal. We don't necessarily have to sleep together in the same bed every single night. We're going to be on the same boat. Not before you trolls come on. There's nothing wrong with our relationship. It's just practicality, right? Do we need a fore cabin and an aft cabin? I don't think we need both. So what we've been looking at is some other types of boats, which I'll go into in a minute. But they have like a deck out the back, which goes through some sliding patio doors, which looks really nice, really posh. Quite often they have a ladder up to a flybridge on top, so you've got 2 separate helms. So you've got 2 steering areas, one up the top and one down below, and then you've got the enclosed cabin. Then you go down into the galley kitchen where you have a seating area, and opposite your kitchen with a fridge and cooker and all that sort of stuff, all the normal things you'd expect with an oven. Most of them do have an oven, gas oven. And then you'd have the V berth, which is where we're going to sleep. So as long as the V berth's big enough, and there's been some different layouts for V berths as well, instead of just having the 2 beds coming out from the bow, what they've done is they've kind of moved the bed over, and you've got a double bed kind of at an angle, if you know what I mean. I'll show you some pictures hopefully as we're going along. So that will make sense, and we can always chop and change things around. You know, it's only wood. We don't really have to structurally change the whole boat. We can do some adjustments if need be, and I think that's what we may end up having to do. But so that's where we're kind of refining. When we've been thinking about, actually, we're going to get up in the morning, we're going to go and do this, we're going to go and feed the ducks and make some breakfast, and how's it going to look, how's it going to, and start to get a feel of, you know, if you turn left, here's what you'll see, if you turn right, here's what you'll see, you know, depending on which way you're facing, obviously. But I want to be able to visualize exactly the kind of feel, and obviously height's a big thing for me as well. It needs to be you know, taller than me, so I can actually stand up in the boat, which the ones we're looking at are. But also, it's, you know, it's very important that we can have the room and the space to do different things. I'm going to be doing a lot of editing on laptops. We want somewhere to eat properly, and there's, with these sliding doors, there's like 3 areas that you can eat, you know, so it'd be quite nice to, depending on the weather, depending on the season, you know, in the summer we can go right out the back, take the canopy off, and you know, and enjoy ourselves out there. There's also another factor is drying clothes, which is a big one, especially in the winter. You know, what do you do? So the enclosed in cabins apparently are not so good for drying clothes. Now, you know, there might be some people watching thinking, oh my God, this is not my idea of retirement. Well, look, you know, we're in a position where we don't really have a lot of choice. All right, we can't downsize and we can't keep the house. Okay, that's just the end of it. We've looked into caravan parks, we've looked into other stuff. This seems to be the best way that we've worked out that we can get the best of both worlds by not having to work, because our income, our outgoings will be so low that we'll be able to afford not to work, and we can just rely on our investment income, maybe even YouTube income. You don't know. You never know how things could work out. But I'm getting the budget planned so that it is just fits within our investment income, and if we do need a little bit of a drawdown, then it's majorly affordable, because of, and also any big expenses or anything like any surprises will be affordable, because we'll still have all the money in the SIP to draw off. We'll also have money in ISAs from the property sale, hopefully. Now, you know, my wife was worrying about the house. You know, what if we don't sell the house? If we don't sell the house, you know, what if it takes a year to sell the house? Now, I've guaranteed her that it's not going to take a year to sell the house, because we will just drop the price. We'll drop the price so low that people will be biting their arms off to get at our house. So there's no way, I mean, it'll just mean that we'll have to take a bigger hit, and it won't be so much that we can invest. But I've done all the numbers. I've even accounted for half as much as what we were hoping for of the house proceeds, you know, so it will work out either way. It will just make things a little bit more frugal, but you know, for our 7-year plan until we get state pension, it will be fine. So that's basically what we're looking at. We're still not sure whether we're going to get the boat or the motorhome first. I know that I said on a previous video that we were umming and ahhing as to which one to do, and then on a subsequent video I said that we were going to get the motorhome first. Really kind of depends, because at the moment also there's where we're going to be moored, there's not enough space yet. Now next year hopefully there will be, because they're going to be moving some stuff around to get the pontoon free. But if they don't, we're going to end up being rafted on somebody else's boat. Now myself and my wife absolutely do not want to be crawling across someone else's boat every day to get to our liveaboard. It's not going to happen. I'd rather go somewhere else and pay more to go somewhere else. So we're looking into other moorings as well. It's unfortunate, because those moorings are going to be damn expensive. It's going to be, you know, probably 3,000 a year rather than under £1,000. Hey ho, you know, these things are sent to challenge us, and we'll get through it. It just takes planning. So that's why our plans, you know, keep changing. And if people don't like it, you know, it's tough. It's just the way life is. Life is always throwing you, as they say, curveballs in the States, you know, and you have to meet those challenges head on, and, you know, work your way through them. So that, you know, that could be a bit of a challenge for us budget wise, but again, you know, if it means we have to draw down a bit more over the next 7 years, then, you know, so be it. We'll still have money left at the end of the day. It just means we won't be sitting as pretty with regards to finances, you know, in the SIP or the ISAs. So yeah, boat wise, we're going to have to start looking around soon. But you know, we've narrowed down a couple of other motor cruisers that have the sliding doors, or some sort of like patio-like doors with like an outer seating area, and then the inner dining area, and even some some berths on there where you could even sleep. It would be nice to sleep up on deck in the summer months. You know, I'd love to do that. Absolutely, I did that on my Bayliner. So that's what thing we're going to go for. Some of the models we've been looking at again they have a what do you call it, a stern drive or out drive on, which we don't want. My Bayliner had a stern drive and with a leg that lifts up and down, which is fine, but it's just more to go wrong. What we want is a shaft drive diesel engine, not petrol. Diesel's much safer. So, you know, we're starting to narrow down our absolute criteria now as to what we want. I do want something that's capable of coastal cruising as well, because we might want to take it out. You know, where we are, there's kind of a nature reserve a little bit further up from us. There's some good fishing spots and stuff like that. Although I will probably have another boat. I'll certainly be having I'll be taking my inflatable dinghy with a small outboard, so that I could maybe have that nearby. I've got storage next to where we are. I can jump in that and go and do some fishing of a day, you know, as long as there's nice weather. Wouldn't do that in the winter really. So yeah, it's all coming together. It's just that kind of visualization of, you know, exactly what retirement is actually going to look like. And, you know, I'm sure there will be uncomfortable months, you know, during the winter. That's why we're planning on having the motorhome, so that we can go around southern Europe and stuff. But, you know, we might not want to do that every single year. We might have to have an uncomfortable few months on the boat and try and deal with it. You know, get a dehumidifier in and try and get all the condensation off and all that all the other challenges that come with winter, you know. But the spring and summer months are going to be absolutely gorgeous. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, right? That's what we're focusing on. Is there will be some really, really lovely times, and there will be some slight hardship, you know. I've had comments before about how rough I look, you know. Sometimes I look at myself on camera and I think, oh my God, my bag's under my eyes. You know, I've had terrible insomnia for decades. It started when I was working at the bank. The utter stress I had, I was just not sleeping at all, and I still don't sleep very well. You know, I'm laying awake at night planning my next videos and all that sort of stuff, and also worrying about where the money's coming from to pay all the mortgage and all the expenditure that's linked with the house. So I'm hoping that, you know, going forward, living on a boat, when we don't have to worry about where the money's coming from, because we've got it all covered and we've got a big proportion in the bank. This is why we're not going for an annuity. I'm not giving up my lump sum. You know, no one's having that. So that was, I think I made that clear on earlier videos. But you know, once I've got that, I've got a lump sum in the SIP and the ISAs, and we've got a regular income coming in from investments, and all the bills are covered. That'll be one major worry that's, you know, away from our minds, and hopefully will help us sleep a little bit better. You know, you might find that we're not sleeping very well because on the boat you're going to have the ropes creaking in the night. You're going to go, it'll be rocking in the night. You'll have there's logs that come up and down the river that hit the hull every now and again. I remember that from staying on the Bayliner, but you do get used to it. So, you know, I guess what this video is about is kind of realizing that our retirement is not going to be all rosy. It's not going to be everyone else's cup of tea, and that's fine, you know. But what it will be is buying back our freedom and having the freedom to do these things, you know. And if we absolutely hate it on the boat after 6 months or something, we can change. We can go do something else. We'll find something else to do, you know, even if it's buy a 10 grand caravan and go and find someone who's got a field somewhere. You know, we know farmers in the area and that sort of stuff. You know, we'll find a way, and people who are determined find a way. And that's, you know, people who are not determined let life run over them, and that's not what we're about at all. So we're trying to create the best possible outcome for the biggest amount of freedom, for the least cost, that puts us in good stead for the future. And that's the whole idea about this plan. Anyway, that's me done. I'll see you on the next update.